What does the milestone like 200 games mean to you?
Yeah, it means a fair bit. Late draft pick. Probably didn't think I was going to make it in the AFL that year. So just to be drafted was an achievement for me. I've had a lot of people help me along the way, obviously, and to get to this point. So 200 games, it's something that, really proud of. I don't know the numbers, but I know that the percentage is quite small that do it. There's some champions of the game that have played 200, and it's sort of doesn't really feel real yet. I'm sure when I look back at the end of my career, I'm not sure what I'll end up on, but I'll be able to soak it up a little bit more. But extremely proud for my family, probably more than myself as well. The people that have sacrificed a lot for me to be in this position.
When you talk about the first thing you go to is that when I was drafted, I maybe didn't think I was going to make it. How do you settle that with the fact that you're now one of the biggest stars in the competition?
It's a funny thing. Like, it goes so quick that you don't have time to sort of think or reflect on those things. I was always an inner belief that I could be a really good player at this level. I think that's crucial to any sort of sportsman or woman's success, is having that self-belief. So that's never wavered, but probably the thing at the start of my career and maybe my draft year was I didn't trust the belief in other people that they had in me, and didn't think that they saw me as that sort of player. So once you bank a few games and sort of play your 50 and then 100, you start to feel a lot more comfortable and I suppose settled at the level. And 200 now is a lot of footy. I've been around for 11 years now, so I suppose the more time you're in the system, you build that belief and that profile, I guess. But I still don't feel super comfortable being mentioned as one of the best players in the game, even though I feel my best is. To hear people say that is quite strange still.
Like Fag said at the beginning of this year, you're in better form, or you'll have a better year this year than you did in 2020. And that was a big year for you. How do you feel your form is and where you're at career-wise right now?
Yeah, I feel body-wise, fitness levels, performance-wise, that I can definitely have my best year this year. It's still really early and a lot of hard work to go, but I've set myself up to have one of my better years. So it's talk's pretty cheap though at this point in time. I've got to go out and deliver. So I feel like I've had a good start. The team's had a good start, which helps. So 3-1 and a narrow loss on the weekend. Coming into round 5 is a really good start, and for me, I feel like I've been able to contribute in a strong way. So I've just got to keep putting my hand up every week and go to battle. So I'm loving my footy more than ever this year. I feel a bit rejuvenated, and I'm as hungry as I've ever been. So yeah, I feel like I'm in a really good spot.
You broke tag really well on the weekend. I know you've had a few taggers over the years, but is that now, you feel like you've taken that next step in your game where you can break tags week on week?
Well, if you want to look back at 2020, I feel like I copped a few then and was able to still play some really good footy. So it's something that you're always constantly working on. Sometimes they get the better of you. Sometimes you play a bit more selfless. On the weekend, I wanted to just attack the footy and go after it. Other times, if it's not quite working for you, you try and release wingers or make 1v2s and get others into the game. So sort of depends week on week what's going on, but I feel like I've got the tools to be able to combat that. But we've also got the personnel in the team that I don't have to go out and have 30 and kick 2 for us to win. So playing a selfless role and letting others do the heavy lifting and getting the job done works for us as well. I think we've probably on the weekend is the first time in a long time that I've been tagged and we've lost. So it doesn't bother me if they come. We've got guys that are super players and really dangerous themselves.
I'm not saying it's true, but there was maybe a perception from other teams that they could get under your skin a little bit. We saw North try to do it a couple of times, and I think Port did it in the game. It doesn't seem to phase you at all anymore, that having someone with you. Is that something you've had to maybe work on, and you know, the frustration of someone pulling and grabbing and hitting you off the ball and that sort of stuff, and you've learned to deal with it better?
Yeah, definitely. It's a thing that when it first happens, it's probably a bit of a surprise and you get a bit agitated. And I think every competitor crosses that line sometimes and lets it affect their mental application to what they need to do to help the team, and I've certainly been guilty of that. So I've learned over time that the more you ignore them and just get on with your job, the better the outcome. So I feel like I've been able to use that to my advantage a lot better over the last few years.
Do you feel like you'll be prepping for them more this season? It seems like they're a bit back in vogue, more so than ever at the moment.
Maybe a little bit. Probably the last 2 weeks we probably thought North, they would send someone after the week before, and there was a lot of talk about taggers and everything after that round 2. I think like Petrarca had a massive week that week, Paddy Cripps. There were some midfielders in some really good form, so we probably knew going into North that they might try and send someone. We didn't really know who. And then when O'Connor came into the team, it seemed like the logical thing, but he's played roles down back as well on like Charlie and some dangerous forwards, so we weren't 100% sure, but always prepare for it. But prepare for the alternative as well, that nothing happens and you just still got to go out and play your role. So that's something that me and Brucey talk about every week, and the potential for who that might be and what it looks like and what we're going to do to combat it.
Where's that game a couple of weeks ago where you specifically mentioned, I think it was Cripps, and you challenged yourself to have a really good game as well. Is that something you do often? Is it you see, this guy had a great game, he's one of the best in the comp, I feel like I can do that too, and I'm going to try and have a great game as well just to match it when there's someone else has starring?
Yeah, a little bit. I use all sorts of different motivation. As I said, 11 years in the system now, you try and grab little pieces that you can to use in your own game and for motivation, and get yourself ready for the contest. But Paddy's a good friend of mine, so that was sort of a little bit tongue-in-cheek on the night, but the way he started the year, he hurt his hammy on the weekend, I think, didn't he? But hopefully it's not too bad. But the way that the superstars play, I watch a lot of footy, and I'm a bit of a footy head in that sense, that I watch quite a few games, and I'm still an admirer and a fan of the really good players.
I think you said earlier that you're as hungry as ever. Where does that come from this far into your career?
Like I said, bits and pieces from everything. I think in the off-season I was lucky enough to become a father as well, and that's given me a new perspective and new motivation. There was obviously a lot of talk in the off-season about myself as well, which really fueled me. Wanted to prove to the club and to my teammates that I was as committed as ever, and wanted to have a really strong off-season and get ready for a really big impact this year. So, and probably the other one was where the team's at. I feel like we're in such a good window to really challenge for that top echelon of teams and a premiership, and I wanted to play my part in that, and that motivates me more than anything.
I was going to say, does that, I don't know if bugs you is the right word, but when you're this deep in your career and you haven't won a premiership and you're at your level as a player and as a club, does that eat away, or does it sort of hang over you at all?
I wouldn't say it hangs over me. It sits there, like, clearly I know I haven't won a premiership, but there's so many great players before me, and even now that haven't won them, they're so hard to win. But knowing that we have an opportunity, I feel, this year and next year, and hopefully a few years after that as well, to challenge for it, that sits in the back of my head and gets me up out of bed every morning for sure.
You've got a big opportunity to make an early statement Thursday night. Easter footy against the Pies is always one of those marquee clashes, setting yourself to stand up on the big stage.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I try and set myself every week to go out and perform. This week's no different. Collingwood are playing some really good footy as well, so it's going to be a tough contest. They've changed their game style a bit, new coach, they're full of energy, and it's going to be a really tough game for us. So I think as a group we're ready to go again. We're glad it's a 6-day break to get back out there after dropping Friday night's game, so we're looking forward to it, and I'm no different.
There's been a bit of talk about the Pies' game style and that pace that they run, and that they may drop off in the fourth quarter. Is that something that you guys have talked about, in that if they are getting maybe on top of you for a little bit, you're in with a chance to come back in that late in the game?
I think we've adopted that approach for a long time, and we've been a high-scoring team at times ourselves, so we know that if we fall 2, 3, 4 goals behind, we don't want to, but if we do, we know that we can come back from that. We're capable of it, so we've shown in the first couple of rounds we've been 4 or 5 goals behind and been able to come back and win it. We don't want to be in those positions, but we're really confident in our ability to score and score quickly, that whatever position we're in, we can dig our way out of it.
Sounds like you're eager for redemption after Friday night. What was the biggest takeaway from Friday night?
They probably got us in the contest a bit too easily. We weren't able to tackle them well enough, and we got stripped a bit too much, and they were able to take it the other way pretty quickly out of those contests. So the bobble ball bouncing around, and they were able to take it away a lot cleaner than we were, and that was probably the game. We were pretty efficient inside 50. I thought our backs did a great job. They had to defend a fair few inside 50s, but they're a quality team and really hard to beat down there. So for us to walk away 10-point losers, not ideal, but we can take some positives away as well. We didn't play anywhere near our best, and we were still in that game with 5 minutes to go.
Like you said before, you said 3-1, compared to 1-3 at the same stage last year. How much less pressure is there, I guess? I guess when you were like 1-3, you sort of almost had to chase and not, is it compared to now where you got, 3-1, narrow loss? It's looking pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's pressure every time you go out there, and it can change really quick. So we've got to be careful not to get complacent and be happy with the start that we've had. You can see if you lose 2 in a row, it can turn to 3 or 4, and all of a sudden we're 3-3 or 3-4 and on the back foot again. So we've got to stay hungry and stay disciplined to our game plan and get the job done each week, and good opportunity to bounce back against Collingwood this week.
How much does home ground advantage have? Because I'm just thinking last year up here you got them, but down there it was Zach Bailey.
After the siren, yeah. Yeah, I think home ground advantage is definitely a thing. I think teams, I don't know if they fear it, but it is hard to come to the Gabba now and get wins as an away team. And you see Geelong, well, I'm not sure their record the last sort of 20 or 30 games, but they would have only dropped 4 or 5 or something in their last 30. So home ground's definitely a thing, and we feed off the energy from our crowd, and hopefully it's a packed Gabba and they get around us.
What about the Pies though? Because they've got one of the biggest supporter bases going around, so there'll be a lot of them and their supporters here. Does that change the Gabba at all? Does that change that advantage?
Hopefully we can shut them up pretty quick.
Just a quick one on Gill. He's hanging him up at the end of the year. From a player's point of view, what's the first thing that jumps into your mind about him and what he's done for the game?
Not sure. I only just heard about that, so I haven't had time to really process it, but I think he's done a really good job. He's a fellow St. Peter's boy, which is where I went to school in Adelaide, him and Hamish. Really good family. What he's done for the game, I think the way that he directed the game through COVID was fantastic. He kept the game running, was able to continue games. We obviously had that short break, but for him to navigate the AFL through that was probably the first thing that pops into my mind, and kept the game growing, I suppose, and AFLW as well. It's a really important part of footy now, and he was in charge of that too, so credit to him. Well done, Gil.